Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1319.
House Bill 1319, Representatives Janal and Tyler, concerning a prohibition against intentionally increasing a diesel-powered vehicle's particulate emissions for the purpose of coal rolling.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1319. There are no committee reports.
There is a transportation and energy report.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. There is a transportation and energy report.
To the Transportation and Energy Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Transportation and Committee report was to change a few things about wording about visual exhibition of smoke instead of the word rolling coal, and also to discuss the type of vehicle that was affected, and that is light-duty diesel vehicles, which are less than 14,000 pounds. I ask for an aye vote on the Transportation Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Transportation and Energy Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Transportation and Energy Committee report. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The committee report passes. To the bill. Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this bill is to prohibit the practice of illegally modifying the exhaust system of a diesel truck for the purpose of releasing thick black smoke and particulate matter in order to harass another vehicle, pedestrian, or bicyclist, or to obstruct or obscure the view of another driver, roadway user, or traffic control device. This practice is referred to commonly as rolling coal, and it addresses public health and public safety hazards for drivers, for pedestrians, and law enforcement officers. What this bill does is it creates a Class A traffic infraction for intentional exhibition of smoke, and in order to receive a citation, the driver must intentionally release soot, smoke, or other particulate emissions, and the violations will add 2 points against a driver's license and a $35 fine. And it must be done in a manner that would be reasonable for a person to feel harassed, annoyed, or alarmed, obstructs or obscures another person's view of the roadway, and creates a hazard to a driver, bicyclist, or pedestrian. And the bill only applies to light-duty diesel trucks. I just want to mention to members that the support came from the County Sheriffs of Colorado, City of Fort Collins, the Municipal League, the Fort Collins Police Department, the Diesel Technology Forum, and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I ask for your support.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the short form of this, members, is this is about bad boys blowing smoke. I was in the position, I had somebody come to my house a few days ago after the hearing who wanted to buy some tools that I was selling on Craigslist. And when he came up, he was a millennial kind of a guy, you know, is it mid-20s, late 20s, something like that. How can I tell? I'm an old guy. But he had a diesel truck out there in the front of my house, and it was sort of rolling and rumbling, and it was all jacked up and everything. I said, do you know anything about coal rolling? And he says, oh, yeah, certainly do. I used to do it all the time. Oh, really? He said, yeah, that was the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. When I was a kid, that's what I was doing. I was going out there blowing this through and wasting fuel and everything. I said, it takes special modifications to do that. Is that right? He says, oh, yeah. Yeah, on Amazon, you can find a kit for about $250 to intentionally do something which floods your cylinders, which puts black smoke into the air, which is so thick it can blind a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or the car behind them. And that's the point of this bill. The point of this bill is not to penalize diesels, which since at least 2007 have been some of the cleanest cars on the road. It's a matter of intentional, aggressive behavior that is an affront to bicyclists, pedestrians, or other cars on the road. This bill was brought to us by Fort Collins Police because they didn't have the tools they needed to deal with this. So I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm curious, and I didn't hear this in committee. So when we're talking about coal rolling and we're talking about purposeful and we're talking about intention, what is the mechanism for coal rolling? I'd appreciate one of the bill sponsors could address that. Is there a button that is pressed, or how does that happen on cue in that fashion?
Representative Becker, Jay.
Are you still going?
I was trying to get an answer, but.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To answer your question, Representative Humphrey, we were explained that there's modifications made which basically the driver hits a button inside their car and it injects more fuel into the engine, causing the more fuel into the engine, allowing the black smoke to come out. So it is completely controllable. We even saw video in committee where the vehicle wasn't spewing out any smoke. The driver was able to control how much smoke comes out when he wanted it to come out.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Melton, for that explanation. So then I'm curious. I'm trying to think of a legislator who drives a diesel. So we'll pick on Senator Holbert. He drives a turbo diesel. So let's say maybe actually let's go with this. Let's say that for part-time work he's taking a job with a school district and he's driving a bus, a diesel bus, and he takes off and he puffs up a big cloud of smoke. Is that in any way prosecutable for that cloud of smoke? Because that could have made somebody feel harassed, annoyed, or alarmed, and that could be, I guess, not a microaggression, but a diesel aggression, carbon aggression, something like that.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The clear answer to that is no. These are light-duty vehicles, 14,000 pounds. So if you've got an if Senator Holbert has an F-350 dually, it would. And if it was less than 7 years old, it wouldn't do this, no matter how hard you tried, unless he made a modification to the intake system. And that video that we saw was real clear. I mean, there were people I don't know where the tapes came from, but you can go online and certainly see them where people say, oh, let's do this. Flip, got it. It's done. There's coal rolling out there. We had a young woman who was a gearhead car person talk about the fact that, yeah, it takes about 5 seconds to set it up and go. So this is intentional behavior. This is not behavior that happens on today's diesels.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I voted against this bill. I'll tell you that I don't like the fact that this bill allows anybody to turn in anybody for this act, or this so-called act that's going on. I'll tell you, I think that it should only be observed by a law enforcement officer, maybe a sheriff's office, like the good sheriff's office of Morgan County. Maybe Sheriff Jim Crone and Under Sheriff Dave Martin over here might have a suggestion on how we handle this bill. Get my attempt in. No, in all seriousness, this bill allows me, if Rep. Tyler is behind me and he believes that I am intentionally doing this, he can turn me in. At that point, we have an issue of he said between what I said. Yeah, GoPros. If he's got a GoPro with him, that might work. But what I'm saying is that this should be observed by a law enforcement officer. This should be something that they take care of, not just people turning people in, because we had something inside of committee. A lady testified and said, as she was getting onto I-25, the diesel pickup in front of her was spraying black smoke. Well, yes, that's what they're going to do when they're accelerating onto I-25. And everybody was nodding their head as that was an example of rolling coal. It is not. That is not what we're talking about. So I think that this bill, to make it better, should actually only be observed by a law enforcement officer, and that should be the only way that it can be enforced. Allowing us to turn each other in on this only causes problems because people do not know how this works and what goes on. So I would ask for a no vote on the bill.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify something. This is already under current statute in law enforcement. Police officers must observe the emissions for at least 5 seconds to ticket the driver under the clean air regulations. And most of these emissions in 5 seconds, they're dissipated. So the police Fort Collins police are the people who actually brought this to me, along with the Downtown Development Authority, along with the City of Fort Collins, because this is an issue. And I thought, okay, maybe this is just a Fort Collins issue. It isn't just a Fort Collins issue. It happens in many cities, up and down the Front Range, on the Western Slope, and anywhere in between. We've gotten calls about it. But let me tell you something else in regards to this. This is not knowingly doing it or intentionally doing this. Is if you're behind someone and they can blow that black smoke if you're stopped at a stoplight, they can do that to you and it can block your view. You can't even see ahead of you for quite a while. The other thing is they were doing it to the police officers. And before the police officers could even get to them, they had gone because the police officers couldn't see ahead of them because of all the black smoke. Here's another example about eating out at various intersections. We have outdoor restaurants that in my city, in Fort Collins, is on the corner of College and Mountain. Very great restaurants to eat outdoors at. You stopped at a light there, you're blowing a rolling coal, blowing smoke, and you're interrupting and harassing people who are just having dinner. And consequently, it not only harasses the person, but it also hurts the restaurant business because those people leave the restaurant because of that rolling coal. So it was brought forth in a manner that, you know, this is a better bill to be able to make it a Class A traffic infraction, a violation of 2 points off your driver's license, and a $35 fine. The $35 fine is no big deal. I know, I've heard this. But the 2 points off of a license, and if you keep doing this, you lose your driver's license. And this is harassment, and it is not, it's blinding to bicyclists. We heard testimony on that, to pedestrians, to people who are running or jogging along the side of a road, or people who are eating out at a restaurant. So it's not just on the road. It's to all of those people, and I ask for your support of this bill.
Representative Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I want to point you to page 3, the top of page 3 at this bill, and you'll see that this would cause a reasonable person to feel harassed, annoyed. Really? Annoyed? I mean, I think Representative Nordberg here is a reasonable person, and I guarantee you he was annoyed driving in on the way this morning when, you know, just beyond north of Castle Rock, it was closed down. I'm sure he was annoyed. I was annoyed. I get annoyed all the time on the roads. But now we're legislating, making it a fine and 2 points because someone feels annoyed? This is incredible. I urge a no vote.
Representative Willett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I'm an avid cyclist. I think I can say I ride more than anybody in this room. Foot and I are pretty close, but between mountain biking and road riding and gravel grinding, I have been the victim of coal rolling. So you might think I'm going to be up here in support of the bill, but sadly I'm not. So in my district, we have a lot of turbo diesels, a lot of E350s, a lot of coal rollers. But what I have found is 2 years ago this was a problem. And slowly, through education, through bicyclists showing respect, through some confrontation, this problem has gone away. Now, I don't know about Fort Collins and downtown. If that is indeed a problem, that's a matter of local control. They can easily pass a local ordinance to deal with this. So my concern is, every time we have a little fad, we can't jump and write a state law on the latest fad. Look how big those red books are getting back there. There used to be 7 volumes when I worked for my dad in 1975. So as a fellow cyclist, as a victim of this stupidness, I don't think we need a state law. This can be handled on a local matter, and I think this fad will fade as most do.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And kind of returning a little bit to what Representative Neville was talking about, top page 3 there, acting in a manner that would cause a reasonable person to feel harassed, annoyed, or alarmed. So let's say this time that former Representative and now Senator Holbert is driving his diesel vehicle that is subject to this legislation, and he blows some smoke when he's taking off. Taking off down the on-ramp, off-ramp, on-ramp, whatever. And he creates a big puff of smoke, and someone pulls him over and says that they're annoyed, and they're all upset. And how do we know that that's because of the puff of smoke or because of the Make America Great Again bumper sticker on his vehicle? I'm just asking.
Representative Janal. Is there any further? Representative Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, I've driven diesel vehicles, diesel pickups mostly, all of my life. And there's sometimes when you're trying to get around the car for safety reasons, you have to really get on that vehicle. You're going to blow some black smoke. And we don't want to vilify this. This is just a safety thing. And I don't see how you can tell the difference. Anybody that does it purposely to a bicyclist or someone who's walking down the road or jogging, man, I am totally against that, but we cannot legislate everything. And I'm afraid that folks that aren't doing it purposely or to be annoying would be hurt because of this. And so I would ask for no vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1319? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Representative Janal, and maybe it was set up here and I missed it, why can't law enforcement prosecute now using the current harassment statutes? Because I would think if I drove by you and threw paint on you or something else like that, that they would be able to come after me and prosecute me with the current harassment statute. So I guess I'm trying to figure out why this would be different than if I threw a water balloon on you, a shake, a paint, or something like that, how this would be different.
Representative Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Minority Leader. The current statute says that the emissions have to be observed for 5 seconds in order to ticket. And the law enforcement vehicles don't, some of them aren't even observing it. This black smoke lasts for more than 5 seconds. It even blocks the view of the police officers. That's one of the major reasons. And what this does is it allows for the intentional release of this black smoke. It lasts for more than 5 seconds.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1319? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1319. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. No! House Bill 1319 passes.